Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and break down a match that football fans, well, they literally still obsess over to this very day. We're talking about the 1987 FA Cup final. And honestly, this wasn't just another championship game. It was a quintessential David versus Goliath classic, the kind of matchup that just has everything you could possibly want in a sports narrative. Whether you're a diehard football historian or just someone who loves a truly phenomenal underdog story, the sheer drama of this one is going to absolutely captivate you.
Right off the bat, listen to this. Legendary commentator John Sillett called this the finest cup final he'd ever had the pleasure of commentating on. Just think about that for a second. John Sillett was the voice of English football for decades. He saw every great match, every legendary player, every dramatic, nail-biting finish you can imagine. So for him to elevate this specific game to the absolute top of his list, yeah, that tells you right away we're looking at something truly special today.
All right, part one, the road to Wembley. Let's set the stage.
You really couldn't ask for a more perfect David versus Goliath setup. On one side, we've got Tottenham Hotspur rocking their iconic all-white kits. They were the heavy favorites. This was their 8th FA Cup final appearance, and they just won the whole thing back in 1981 and 1982. Plus, their squad was absolutely stacked, with 12 international players. 12! And then on the other side, you've got Coventry City in the blue and white stripes. This was their very first domestic cup final appearance. Ever. And out of their entire starting lineup, they had exactly one international player. So yeah, a star-studded international Spurs squad going up against a Coventry team that, frankly, most pundits didn't give a prayer.
And it gets worse for the underdogs, because Tottenham felt like this unstoppable offensive juggernaut, driven mostly by one guy, striker Clive Allen. Going into this final match, he had scored a staggering 49 goals. 49! That's how he was a complete record. The idea of containing him, it genuinely seemed like an impossible task for the Coventry defense.
But, Coventry wasn't entirely helpless here. If we look back at the regular season matchups between the two teams, we actually see this little glimmer of hope for the underdogs. Yes, sure, Tottenham won 1-0 at their home ground, but when they played at Coventry's Highfield Road just a few months earlier, Coventry actually beat Tottenham 4-3 in this epic, completely back-and-forth league encounter. So Coventry's manager John Sillett, he knew his team could score against Spurs. They just had to pull it off on the biggest stage in English football.
So let's get into it. Part 2, a classic clash begins. The momentum in this match shifted wildly right out of the gate. Just 2 minutes in, Chris Waddle crosses the ball and Clive Allen, because of course it's Clive Allen, heads it in. Goal number 49 for the season, and immediately you're probably thinking, okay, the blowout is on. But Coventry absolutely refused to roll over. Just 7 minutes later, in the 9th minute, Dave Bennett rounds Tottenham's legendary goalkeeper Ray Clements and equalizes. The stadium goes absolutely wild. But then, right before halftime, 41st minute, a free kick bounces into the box and Tottenham's Gary Mabbutt strikes it into the net, so Spurs take a 2-1 lead heading into the break. Then, midway through the second half, Coventry strikes back again, and man, they did it in spectacular fashion. 63rd minute, Dave Bennett launches this beautiful right-footed cross into the Tottenham penalty area, and Keith Houchen literally launches himself into the air. He connects with this stunning diving header that just sends the ball flying past Clements. It was such an unbelievable effort that it was later named the BBC goal of the season. So suddenly it's 2-2.
Both teams trade chances in the final minutes, but nobody can break the deadlock. And as the final whistle blows on the 90 minutes with the game deadlocked at 2-2, we really have to ask, could these massive underdogs actually pull off a miracle? Tottenham had the pedigree for sure, but Coventry just had this immense heart. So, we're heading into extra time to decide the champion.
Which brings us to part 3, extra time drama. In the 96th minute, the tension finally snaps. Graham Rodger picks up a loose ball, finds Lloyd McGrath in some space on the right wing. McGrath makes a run, crosses the ball into the Tottenham penalty area, and here is where a stroke of just tragic luck hits Spurs. The ball deflects off Tottenham defender Gary Mabbutt's left knee, it loops way up high into the air, completely freezes the goalkeeper, and just drops right into the net. An own goal. Just like that, Coventry City takes a 3-2 lead. It was absolutely heartbreaking for Mabbutt, who, remember, had scored earlier for his team, but it was an unbelievable stroke of fortune for Coventry.
For the rest of extra time, Coventry smartly runs down the clock. Keeping possession, frustrating all of Tottenham's efforts to equalize. And when the final whistle blew, they'd done it. Coventry secured the victory. It prompted this ecstatic, but honestly incredibly gracious reflection from their joint manager John Sillett, who praised both sides for showing the very best of the English game. And even Tottenham's manager, David Pleat, noted that his squad contributed to a fantastic, fair game, even though they were obviously devastated to lose.
All right, finally, let's look at part 4, the aftermath and legacy.
The day after the match, there was just sheer, unadulterated joy in the city of Coventry. They paraded the trophy on an open-top bus, and 250,000 people lined the streets. 250,000, an unbelievable turnout. And perhaps my favorite, most beautiful detail, the bells of the old Coventry Cathedral were rung to celebrate the victory. Why is that a big deal? Because those bells hadn't rung in over 100 years. It was this massive moment of deep civic pride and historic celebration.
But here is the bittersweet reality. Normally, winning the FA Cup guarantees a club entry into European competition the following year. However, despite achieving this ultimate football glory, Coventry was barred from testing their mettle in Europe. This was due to a blanket ban on English clubs competing in European football following the tragic Houchen Stadium disaster in 1985. So the ultimate reward of a European tour was completely taken off the table, which was obviously a really tough pill to swallow for a club reaching this height for the very first time. But you know what? Regardless of that ban, the legacy of this match is absolutely untouchable. Today, pundits consistently rank it as a top 10 greatest FA Cup final of all time. Despite the loss, Tottenham's Clive Allen was awarded the PFA Players' Player of the Year for his unbelievable 49-goal season. And in a very cheeky bit of football culture, a Coventry fan publication was literally named Gary Mabbutt's knee in honor of that deciding own goal. I mean, that is how deeply this single match permeated the culture of the club.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on as we wrap up this explainer. What truly defines a legendary sports final? Is it the flawless execution of a giant, or the messy, beautiful heart of the underdog that makes a story truly immortal? The 1987 FA Cup final gave us both. A favorite full of international superstars playing brilliant football, and an underdog that simply refused to quit. It's a reminder of why we watch, why we care, and why a single match can echo through history for decades. Thanks for exploring this amazing story with me, and keep that curiosity alive.